Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our Houston Sharpshooters Draft to Glory franchise mode here in NHL 22. So I am pre-recording this episode just a little bit ahead of time, but it's because of the fact I kind of want to see how this team simulates. Because in last episode, we lost a couple big pieces with this team, those being Kapitanov, who was our top-line right winger. We also lost Yip, who was a top 6 defenseman for us for multiple years. But our team still looks pretty solid, I would say. It's not the worst team I've ever had. The bottom 6 is definitely a little bit weak. The wingers are definitely also a little bit weak, but Scuderi hopefully can produce really well on the top line because he was producing really well in terms of playing like on the second line last season. So very much hoping that with Jaskalainen he could produce at a good level. Also, Jacobs getting a lot more ice time this year as well. Duclair cracking our lineup. Lucic playing on the fourth line. Bengtsson and Sidora as well on our roster. It's not the worst team. The center depth is not bad either. It's just more the wingers, I'd say. And then also, we did sign a former goaltender Stefan Soderstrom, who was a free agent at the start of the season. So we decided, hey, why not bring him back? It's been a couple years since he's been with us. He got us all the way to a Cup Finals appearance. Unfortunately, lost that. But he didn't sign in Columbus for 2 years, where he was really solid in. And then he signed in New Jersey. So it's really good to have him back with our organization. But he is going to be playing as a backup behind Benson, but still gives us a little bit more solidity to our goaltending tandem. And yeah, I think our team should be okay this season. I don't really know if we're going to be a playoff team or not. It really just depends if our top lines and our top players who are getting paid the big bucks produce. So there's that. There's our power play lines. They didn't actually set those up, but I did leave them just the way the AI had it. There's our penalty kills. Still looks good chemistry-wise as well, for the most part. So, should be interesting to see how this team does. Let me quickly adjust the AHL, because I didn't actually do that. I literally just finished recording last episode already. But let's see. Should we get any of these guys into our lineup? Doesn't seem like it right now. We could try and get Cousins in, since we just signed him to an ELC, and maybe Murata. Goalies, medium elite. Sweat shouldn't be playing technically, but I do like to play Sweat. But I think I am going to play Cousins instead. That way we're running our younger goalies first, and that medium elite goalie gets the best opportunity to grow. We are going to also move some of our top 6 players up a little bit in the lineup, just to get this a little bit better. Because we want this team to do somewhat decently down there, and hopefully a lot of these guys get some good growth if we can. Yeah, that should be fine, I think. Yeah, I think that should be fine. Wait, Connor is 25, so I'm going to take him out. And then we're going to get in Murata. And that should be good. And our team is ready to go. Now comes down to if our team's going to make the playoffs or not. Because I honestly don't know if we're going to make the playoffs. Let me take a quick look at the draft class just to see what's out there. So there's wingers, which is stuff we need. So if we miss the playoffs, it's definitely not the end of the world, but there's some good centers. It looks like some good wingers. It's a very forward-heavy draft, and a goalie supposed to go into the top 10. So that might be a franchise-level goalie or a high-elite goalie, which would be very interesting, but we don't really need that. But if it comes down to it, this goalie might be a really good player, because I don't think I've seen top 10 goalies that often. So there we go. Let's him up until the end of the season, see how this team does. And hopefully Jaskalainen can have still another good year, because he is our best player still by far. One of the best playoff players I've ever had in a franchise mode. It's just all about what he could do this regular season, because last year he had like 92 points still. So, but now that he's lost Kapitanov, does his point totals go down a little bit, or what? Because we do still have Thornton, but now Scuderi's playing on that top line, so I don't really know how the top line is going to produce as opposed to other seasons. But we go 4-2-1 in the preseason, which is pretty good. Scuderi had 11 points in 7 games, so hopefully that's a sign of things to come in the regular season. So there is that, and yeah, let's start simulating the regular season and see what happens. Let's go to January the 1st, take it a little bit slower, but let's go to January the 1st and see what we do in our first 2 months of action. And yeah, hopefully it's a decent record, or we're just really bad, because I don't want to be like 500 and just make the playoffs or just miss the playoffs, because then it makes our draft lottery odds a lot worse. But we start the season 7-1, which is a very big surprise. I don't really know why, but our team's off to a really good start. But it should fall back to earth eventually, which is doing kind of right now, it looks like. Yep. Now we're on a losing streak. Yep. Okay, so the team started off really hot, but then they dropped a lot of games this month, which is what they should have done out of the gate. But that's kind of interesting. I don't like that we're playing 500 hockey. I would rather be like well above 500 or well below. But yeah, that hot start definitely has been diminished, which is kind of interesting. But we are scoring a lot of goals in some of these games, like 7 goals, 4 goals, 5 goals in some of them too. So, but yeah, we're doing exactly what I don't want us to do, and that's be like 500. 19, 16, and 1, not bad. We're in a wild card spot at January the 1st. And Jaskline is still right around point per game, which is great to see considering we lost Kapitanov. 39 points now for our team in the 36 games. We're 4 points up on the last wildcard spot. And we're multiple points back of the Jets right now, who have Kapitanov and they have Sam Seidu. So that's interesting. And then Philadelphia is where Yip signed, and they are well in a playoff spot right now as well. Not a surprise, because they won the Cup last season, if I'm not mistaken. So there is that. Let's continue to simulate. And yeah, it's good to see Jaskline still putting up points, even when the team is kind of in a little bit of a tweener, like a good team and a bad team. I don't really know what I'm trying to say, but it's just good to see him produce still consistently, even when the team is not like stacked, because it means he's a very good player. He might be one of the best players I've ever drafted in a franchise mode before. Definitely the best in a long time, though. Him and Agostino in Arizona for sure. Now we're winning a couple games in a row, which is good. So we're getting well above 500, which is what I would prefer if we're going to be a playoff team. 28, 18, and 3. And that has us still in a first wildcard spot, but we are catching up to the Jets, which is nice. And Jaskline is still 48 points in 49 games. It must be our defense still that's keeping us this good, though. I'm guessing, because we improved our goaltending situation a bit, because Soderstrom's a much better backup goalie than Park is. And our defensive core is pretty much the same, except for we lost Yip. So I'd say we're still probably a really strong defensive team. I don't really know how good our offense has been. It could be literally just the top lines, because that's been the same thing for multiple years, where our depth scoring has just not been there. Let's go up to March the 1st, a day before the deadline. Not that we're going to make any trades, because this is a draft glory anyways, so... But yeah, our team has been really good all of a sudden, which is nice to see. Kind of like how we started off the season. 31 wins already. Doing a lot better than I expected this year as well. Because like I said, this team kind of didn't look the best on paper, but they're winning games. So 36, 22, and 4 a day before the deadline. 57 points in 62 games now for Jaskalainen, and we're not in a wildcard spot anymore. We have passed the Jets, which is great. So Kapitanov and Seidu are below us in the standings. Interesting. Yeah, still doing a lot better than I expected. I wonder if our depth scoring is improved or not. Because with the younger guys getting into the lineup, maybe they're just a lot more hungrier to make this team better or not. Okay, so let's just advance to the deadline just so we can get out of this screen. 4-3 win. Nice. We are going to go in as a buyer, and we're just going to go continue simulating. Okay. So once this loads, there we go. Let's get the rest of it simulated. Let's go up until the 21st. Take it a little bit slower since we're near the end of the season. We're not claiming players on waivers. That would be an interesting series to do, is just waiver claim the glory, but I don't think you could claim that much players on waivers throughout the season. But yeah, our team is definitely still having some inconsistencies this year, but still much better than I expected. Like, I didn't expect us to have 41 wins already at this point, but we could hit 50 wins this year, which is kind of nuts to think about. Let's go to the 30th. Get another week of simulating pretty much done. There's a couple more wins and a couple more losses. If we just barely make the playoffs, though, maybe we'll be the cheese team that goes far. You just never really know with the playoff simulation. We got 6 games left. Did we clinch a playoff spot yet? No, we have not. But we are in the first wildcard spot with 90 points, so we could still climb up in the standings a little bit more. So let's get those last 2 games done. Those last 6, and see if we can clinch ourselves a playoff spot. Game against Columbus, we win 2-1, and then we beat Ottawa. We lose to Minnesota, lose to Detroit. lose to Vegas, and win in overtime against the Canucks. So a little bit of a weird end to the season, but we do make the playoffs in the last wildcard spot with 97 points. Which, I mean, if we were in the Pacific Division, we'd be third place in that division easily, which is kind of interesting. So our division is just really stacked. And it seems like our depth scoring might not have been there because Jääskeläinen only 73 points this year. Last year he had like 92. So the loss of Kapitanov maybe hurt a little bit. Let's just get the last of the season simulated just because there's other teams done. There we go. Okay, so let's take a look at the standings in the player stats for the 2036-37 season. See how good we did in some areas. So the Calgary Flames were the best team in the NHL. Philadelphia was second, which is interesting because Yip is there. The Jets did finish above us in the standings, but oh well. And yeah, we finished 12th best in the NHL with a 59 win percentage. Goals for per game on average. We were one of the worst offensive teams in the NHL. So yeah, our offense is definitely declining. It's probably because of the lack of depth. But our goals against per game, we were the best defensive team in the NHL, even with the loss of Yip. So that definitely proves my point that losing an 81 overall defenseman is not the end of the world, especially for our top six. So very impressed that our team is the best defensive team despite our losses in the offseason. Our power play percentage was one of the worst in the league. So yeah, the offense definitely needs to improve, which we already kind of knew about. And our penalty kill percentage was one of the best in the league, third best in the NHL, only behind the Montreal Canadiens and the Pittsburgh Penguins at 86.1%. We were around 500 on home ice and well above 500 on the road. Interesting. I don't really know what to make of this team. Good offensive team or bad offensive team, good defensive team. It seems like we just need our depth to show up kind of in the playoffs if we want to actually win a Stanley Cup. So we'll see if we could actually win a cup this year or not. So starting off with our player stats now. Jääskeläinen, 73 points in 82 games. He's 33 years old at this point, so he is going to start to probably drop off, but hopefully we can get him a cup before that ends because he is one of the best players I've ever had for sure. And there is a chance that he could still win another Selke this year. He didn't win it last year, but he does have 56% on the draw this year. And as per usual, a lot of takeaways, 163 takeaways. So I think he might be in line to win his sixth Selke trophy. Just depends on that guy in St. Louis, I guess, that won it last year. Burns, 52 points, pretty solid. I wouldn't say that's terrible, but he's getting paid like $11 million, so a lot of money, but still not bad. Patan has been really solid for his amount of money as well. $3.6 million, 48 points. And then, holy crap, Pete Pasquale. So without Pete Pasquale, I don't know if this team would have made the playoffs. 25 goals and 2 assists for Pete Pasquale. A very fluctuated scoreline. But that's a career high in goals for Pete on the fourth line. Very interesting. Is he getting power play time? Yeah, a little bit, it looks like, and some shorthanded time. But still not averaging that much ice time, but a career best season for Pete Pasquale. Interesting. That's good to see, though, because he's our second best centerman in terms of goals. Left wing wise, Gene Thornton, 68 points. Kind of dropping off in production, which is kind of bad, but I mean, the team wasn't great offensively. But yeah, maybe the loss of Kapitanov hurt him a little bit. But still, now he's one goal away from 500 goals in his career. So there's that. Not Gene Forster. I almost said Gene Forster. George Forster. It's because I got these two mixed up. George Forster, 38 points, only 4 goals, but 34 assists. Jacobs, 35 points, not too bad from the youngster. Sador, 22 points, Lucic, 20, and Duclair, 15 in his first season. Right wing-wise, Scuderi, 63 points on the top line's not too bad. A little bit more of a second liner, it seems like, but still, I would take those points. Bankston, 23 points, ain't too bad either for 75 overall. I'll take that. And then defensively, Teratukin, 52 points this year, pretty solid. We do still have him locked up for 4 more years at a big price, but 700 points now in his career for Teratukin. Sedin, 38 points. Hedman, 27 points. Schutz had 18 points, and it was a plus 13, not bad. McGrattan, 17 points, and Umberger, 14 points, not bad. Definitely will take that from our defensive core. Not the best plus minuses across the board, but I'll take it. And then goalie-wise, Benson was really solid. He's still only an 85, so hopefully he doesn't want too much in the offseason, but pretty solid stat line. And then our backup goalie, Stefan Soderstrom, I was glad to bring him back. He was fantastic as our backup. He might end up being our playoff goalie at this rate. A 927 save percentage and a 2.09 with 11-5-1 record, 2 shutouts. That's a really good stat line for a backup. And we're going to have a Jennings winning goaltending combination this year since we're the best defensive team, I think. In terms of the entire league, though, let's take a look at this. Dominguez in Philadelphia, 124 points, is going to lead the league. Vidicek also behind him in Winnipeg. Interesting. Best goal scorer this year, we had 271 goal scorers, which is kind of nuts. Dominguez and Scarabelli, Philly and Calgary. I almost said Carolina and Columbus. I don't know why. But a lot of goals this year, seems like. Best defenseman was DeAndre Hoffman in St. Louis. Helenka in Colorado's up there. And Tertukin finishing third in points. Pretty solid. Best goalie this season in terms of wins was Travis Hamonic in Philadelphia, as per usual. Best save percentage by a starting goaltender was Hamel in Pittsburgh. Most shutouts this year was House in Edmonton. And the best goals against average by a starter was Hamel in Pittsburgh. But Bickle was also up there. Best rookie this season for points was Hagelin in Carolina and Sonnenberg behind him in Buffalo. And Bourret, I guess, in Montreal. All of them above 50 points. Let me take a quick look at just the Selke Trophy candidates. Best face-off win percentage by somebody that had a lot of takeaways. Actually, we'll go by centers because it's most likely going to be a centerman that wins the Selke. Let's see. We got Scarabelli, 52% on the draw, 161 takeaways. Alfredson and Chiodu. Yeah, probably those guys are up there, I'd say, because of the face-off percentage. Maybe Elias Pettersson still. Schofield. I wonder if the point total is going to come back to bite Jääskeläinen, but Jääskeläinen was one of the best on face-offs, it seems like, for the amount of face-offs he took. Kirby Doc actually up there, Jerome Darche. But yeah, Jääskeläinen might have an opportunity to win it. He did take the fourth most amount of face-offs, and he had a 56 percentage, so hopefully Jääskeläinen could win another Selke. That would be really great if that is the case. So that is that. Who are we going to be facing in the first round of the playoffs? It's going to be none other than the Calgary Flames. Okay, this is going to be pretty tough. We got to contain a guy that just scored 71 goals in the season and Scarabelli. Yeah, that's going to be definitely tough. I think I might start Soderstrom in game 1. Not 100% sure with that, though, but that is very interesting. Definitely going to be a tough team to beat. We are definitely the underdogs the entire time we have this playoff run. First line is Nils Hoglander, Cristiano Scarabelli, 96 overall, high franchise, only 25 years old, and this guy already has 772 points, almost 500 goals. And then last year in the playoffs, I guess they got eliminated in the second round, or is that the Cup Finals? I don't know. 27 points in 20 games. And then they also have Tony Toskala. Second line, they have Jacob Perreault, Peyton Krebs, and Nathan Gauthier. Third line, Brian Slaney, Tyler Madden, and Dominic Bach. And a fourth line of Carter McCauley, Sergei Korostin, not our former player. Forgot what our Korostin's former name was. Ridley Grieg. Interesting. So, this team was really good, despite having a good top 6 and a weakish bottom 6. I'd say our bottom 6 is a little bit weaker, but we do have better center depth than they do. But they have a 96 overall, so we can't really say much. Defensively, they're pretty good as well. They got Charles Taylor, Silas Keene as their top pairing. Noah Dobson and Bowen Byram on the second pairing, and Lucas Nicholson. Interesting. And Gordy LeClaire on that top 6. So that defensive core is a bit weak with Dobson because he's dropping off a lot, but still not bad. And goalie-wise, they have Ron Denny and Timofey Nikitin. Interesting. Depth-wise, they have Trent Watkins and Brent Habscheid. Why do I recognize Watkins? Minnesota. I don't know if we've probably seen him in Minnesota when we played them in the playoffs before. Yeah, more than likely, that's where I recognize him from. Interesting. Final thing before we end this episode, I want to take a look at some progress reports just to see if anybody in the AHL is getting an insane amount of growth. So Griffin is growing a lot, which is great. He's going to be on our defensive core next season for sure. 78, 22. Really like the amount of growth he's getting. Festorini, that medium elite, or low elite actually we drafted, is growing. That's also good. Cole's up to a 72. That's good because he's a top 6'4" prospect. Vlasic's getting growth. Where it looks like we're getting a decent amount of growth in the minors, which is something we definitely haven't had in a while, I don't think. And then goalie's up to a 72 at 20. How was his first AHL season? Or not his first, his third AHL season. Not very good. He's not had the best AHL numbers, but our AHL team probably is just not that good. So anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of our Houston Sharpshooters Draft to Glory. So in next episode, we'll take it to round 1 against a very tough Calgary Flames team and see if we can pull off the upset. So anything guys think down below, and I'll see you guys next time.